You reach hour 12 of your fast, and something starts to feel off. Hunger creeps in, your energy dips slightly, and your mind begins to question what you're doing. You expected this to feel like progress, like fat burning finally kicking in. But instead, it feels uncomfortable, uncertain, almost like something is going wrong. But what if I told you, this is the most important moment in your entire fast? Not the beginning, not the end, but this exact window, between hour 12 and hour 24, is where your body is going through a hidden transformation that most people never understand. And because they don't understand it, they quit right in the middle of it. Imagine this happening inside your body right now. For hours, your system has been quietly shifting. The easy fuel, glucose, is running low. Your stored sugar, glycogen, is being drained. Hormones are adjusting, signals are changing, and your body is preparing to do something it has been avoiding for as long as possible. But it hasn't happened yet. And that's the part that confuses people. Because from the outside, it feels like nothing is working. You feel hungry, maybe even weaker, and you assume this must be the limit. That this is as far as your body can go. So you eat. And when you do, you never see what happens next. Because just beyond this discomfort, just past this phase that feels uncertain and unstable, there is a shift, a real one. A metabolic turning point where your body stops relying on sugar and finally begins to tap into fat in a meaningful way. But here's the problem. Most people never reach it. Not because they can't, but because they don't understand what this window actually represents. They misinterpret the signals. They mistake transition for failure. So they stop at hour 12, hour 14, maybe hour 16, always right before the real process begins. And the question is, what is actually happening inside your body during these hours that makes this window so important? Before you start thinking that something is wrong with you, understand this. What you're feeling between hour 12 and hour 16 is not failure. It's not a sign that your body can't handle fasting. It's not a signal that you're doing it incorrectly. In fact, it's the opposite. Your body is doing exactly what it has been designed to do. The discomfort, the hunger, the slight drop in energy, these are not problems. They are signals. But the problem is, most people have been taught to interpret these signals the wrong way. Think about how you've lived up until now. Your body has been trained to rely on a constant supply of food. Breakfast, lunch, snacks, dinner, energy is always coming in. So your metabolism adapts to that pattern. It becomes efficient at using sugar because sugar is always available. Now suddenly, you remove that supply. You stop eating, and your body enters a state it hasn't experienced often. It doesn't immediately switch to fat. Instead, it goes through a transition, a period of adjustment where it tries to maintain stability using the remaining sugar it has stored. And during that transition, you feel it. That feeling at hour 12, hour 14, it's your body searching for balance. It's your system recalibrating. But because it feels uncomfortable, because it's unfamiliar, most people assume something is wrong. So they stop. Imagine someone who reaches hour 14 and feels that shift. They think, this isn't working. I feel worse, not better. So they eat. And the moment they do, the body returns to what it knows best, sugar burning. The transition is cut short, and the deeper process never begins. And this repeats again and again, not because they lack discipline, but because they were never told that this phase is normal, that it's expected, that it's actually necessary. So if you've ever felt this and stopped, it doesn't mean you failed. It means you were standing right in the middle of a process you didn't yet understand. And once you understand it, that same feeling no longer becomes a reason to quit. It becomes a sign that something important is about to happen. For a long time, you've probably imagined fat burning as something that increases smoothly over time. The longer you fast, the more fat you burn. Hour by hour, a steady rise, a clean, predictable curve. But inside your body, that's not what's happening at all. The reality is far less smooth and far more interesting. Because between hour 12 and hour 24, your body is not steadily burning more fat. It's struggling to decide whether to switch at all. This is not a fat-burning phase. It's a transition phase. Your body is standing between two fuel systems, sugar and fat, and it does not want to switch unless it absolutely has to. It will hold on to sugar for as long as possible, stretching every last bit of glycogen, delaying the need to adapt. So instead of a smooth increase, what you actually experience is resistance. At hour 12, you expect fat burning to begin. But internally, glycogen is still present. Insulin is lower, but not low enough. Your body is still relying on sugar, even if it's running low. At hour 14, that resistance becomes more noticeable. Hunger increases, energy fluctuates, and your body starts signaling discomfort. Not because it's failing, but because it's being pushed toward a change it's trying to avoid. And this is where the misunderstanding happens. Most people believe that if fat burning were happening, they would feel better, more energized, more stable. But in reality, the opposite often comes first. Before the switch, there is instability. There is uncertainty. There is a phase where your body hasn't fully committed to either fuel source. It's like a system caught between gears. Not fully in sugar mode, not fully in fat mode. So when people reach this phase, they interpret it as a problem. They assume fasting isn't working. They assume their body isn't responding. But the truth is, they are right at the edge of the most important shift. Fat burning doesn't rise smoothly. It waits, it delays. And then, only when the conditions are right, it begins to take over. And if you don't understand that, you'll keep stopping in the exact place where the real process was about to begin. Now you can begin to see why this transition feels so difficult. It's not just a passive process. There is an active resistance inside your body, something holding the switch back, delaying the shift, keeping you in sugar-burning mode for as long as possible. The first part of this resistance is glycogen. Think of it as your body's last reserve of easy energy. It sits quietly in your liver and muscles, ready to be used whenever needed. And your body is programmed to protect efficiency. As long as glycogen is available, there is no reason to switch to fat. So it uses it slowly, carefully, stretching it out as long as it can. Even when you haven't eaten for hours, even when you feel hungry, glycogen is still there, quietly fueling your system. And as long as it exists, your body will avoid making the harder transition. Then there's insulin, the gatekeeper. Insulin doesn't just respond to food. It controls access to your fat stores. When insulin is elevated, fat is locked away. When it drops, the door begins to open. But here's the problem. It doesn't drop instantly, and it doesn't stay low easily. Late meals, high carbohydrate foods, frequent eating patterns, all of these keep insulin elevated longer than you think. So even as you fast, even as time passes, insulin may still be high enough to delay the switch. And then there's something even more subtle: metabolic inertia. Your body prefers what it's used to. If you've spent years relying on constant sugar intake, your system becomes efficient at it. It becomes comfortable. And when you try to change that pattern, it resists. Not because it's broken, but because it's adapting slowly. So between hour 12 and hour 24, all of these forces are at play. Glycogen is being used but not fully gone. Insulin is dropping but not completely suppressed. Your body is being pushed toward change, but it's holding on to what it knows. And that's why this phase feels like a struggle. Not because nothing is happening, but because something is being held back. This is the invisible villain. Not a single factor, but a system designed to delay change until it becomes absolutely necessary. And until this resistance is overcome, the switch you're waiting for will continue to stay just out of reach. But once you see the pattern, something changes. Because what felt confusing before now starts to make sense. This phase between hour 12 and hour 24 is not random. It's not chaotic. It's a structured sequence your body follows every single time. You just couldn't see it before. Imagine your body like a system moving through stages, each one preparing for the next. At around hour 12, you are still closer to sugar than you think. Glycogen is being used, but it hasn't run out. Your body is still comfortable. It's still operating within a familiar range. But you begin to feel the shift. Hunger rises. Energy becomes slightly unstable. This is the beginning of pressure building inside the system. By hour 14, that pressure increases. Glycogen levels are lower now, but not empty. Insulin has dropped, but not fully. Your body is starting to look for alternatives, but it hasn't committed. It's like standing at a crossroads, hesitating before choosing a new direction. At hour 16, this is where most people believe they've reached the goal. But internally, it's still a transition. Your body is beginning to mix fuel sources, still using some remaining sugar while slowly increasing fat usage. It's not a full switch. It's a negotiation. Then, as you move toward hour 18 and beyond, something deeper begins to happen. Glycogen drops to a level where it can no longer meet your body's energy demands efficiently. Insulin has stayed low long enough to unlock access to stored fat. Glucagon rises, signaling the need for a new fuel source. AMPK becomes more active, pushing your body toward energy efficiency and adaptation. Now the system is no longer comfortable staying where it was. It's being forced to change. By hour 20, the shift becomes more noticeable internally. Fat usage increases. Lipolysis, the breakdown of stored fat, begins to rise more consistently. Your body starts producing more ketones, creating a more stable alternative energy source. And by the time you approach hour 24, the system has largely transitioned. Fat is no longer a backup. It has become a primary fuel. The instability fades, energy stabilizes, the body has adapted. But here's the critical insight. This entire process doesn't happen instantly. It builds, it struggles, it resists, and it only completes if you allow it to. And right in the middle of this timeline, somewhere between that early discomfort and that later stability, there is a moment where everything changes. A moment most people never reach. And that moment? It's quieter than you expect. But once you recognize it, you can never unsee it again. It doesn't arrive exactly at hour 16 or 18 or even 20. It arrives when your body reaches a very specific internal condition, when glycogen is finally low enough, when insulin has stayed suppressed long enough, and when your body no longer has an easy choice left. That's when the switch happens. Up until that point, Your body has been delaying, stretching, negotiating. But now it shifts. Lipolysis increases more consistently. Fatty acids are released into the bloodstream. The liver begins converting them into ketones at a higher rate. And for the first time, your body is no longer relying on sugar as its primary fuel. It has committed to fat. What makes this moment so powerful is how it feels. Hunger changes. It becomes quieter, less urgent. Energy stabilizes instead of fluctuating. Your mind feels clearer, not because you've eaten, but because your body has finally adapted to a more stable fuel source. And yet, this is the exact moment most people never experience, because they stop just before it. They feel the discomfort at hour 12, 14, maybe 16, and assume that's the limit. They eat thinking they've done enough. But in reality, they were standing right at the edge of the shift. The good news is, you don't need to force extreme fasts to reach this moment. You just need to help your body arrive there more efficiently. Small changes make a difference. Imagine finishing your last meal earlier, so your body begins the fasting process with lower insulin from the start. Imagine reducing sugar and unnecessary snacking, so glycogen doesn't stay constantly full. Imagine adding light movement, a simple walk, to help your body use up stored fuel faster. And imagine improving your sleep, allowing your hormonal signals to stay stable instead of disrupted. These are not drastic actions, but internally, they remove the delays. They allow your body to move through the timeline more smoothly, reaching that moment without unnecessary resistance. And once you've experienced it, even once, everything changes. You stop guessing. You stop relying on fixed hours. You begin to recognize the signals your body gives you when the switch has truly happened. And that's when fasting stops feeling like effort and starts feeling like alignment. And this is where everything either comes together or quietly falls apart again. Because even when you understand the timeline, even when you get close to that moment, a few small mistakes can keep you stuck in the same cycle without you realizing it. One of the most common mistakes is stopping too early, right in the middle of the transition. You reach hour 12, 14, maybe 16, feel the discomfort, and assume that's your limit. But that discomfort isn't the end of the process. It's the doorway into it. And by stopping there, you repeat the same pattern every day, getting close, but never crossing over. Another mistake is misreading hunger. That early wave of hunger feels urgent, like your body needs food immediately. But often, it's just your system reacting to the absence of sugar it's used to. If you respond to it every time, your body never learns to adapt, and the switch never completes. Then there's what you do right before or during the fast. Late-night eating, especially high in sugar or refined carbohydrates, keeps glycogen levels high and delays the entire timeline. Poor sleep raises stress signals that interfere with hormonal balance, and frequent snacking throughout the day prevents your body from ever entering a true fasting state in the first place. Even how you break your fast matters. A sudden spike in sugar or a heavy meal can quickly raise insulin, pushing your body right back into storage mode. So even if you were close to that shift, the signal changes instantly, and fat burning is paused again. But the biggest mistake of all is focusing only on time. Believing that reaching a certain hour automatically means you've achieved something internally. Your body doesn't follow the clock. It follows conditions. And if those conditions aren't met, the process simply doesn't complete. So if you've been fasting and not seeing the results you expected, now you can finally see why. You weren't doing it wrong. You just didn't understand what your body was going through during this critical window. And once you understand it, everything changes. You begin to recognize the signals. You stop quitting at the wrong moment. You allow your body to move through the process fully. If this changed the way you see fasting, share it with someone who's been struggling, someone who thinks they've hit their limit when they were actually just getting started. And if you want to understand more about how your body really works, how hormones, timing, and hidden internal processes control fat loss, stay connected. Because once you understand this window between hour 12 and 24, you're no longer guessing. You're no longer stuck. You're finally working with your body. And that's when real change begins.